All right. So Shavua Tov again. We're starting the last week of the year. Our subject today is Sukkot. We've already went through Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur. So we're going a little further away. Sukkot will start in the 15th of the month of Tishrei. So that would be only in 3 weeks from now. But the preparation is good. So already 2 weeks ago, we spoke about Rosh Hashanah. Last week, we spoke about Yom Kippur, which are considered the high holidays. And now we're getting to Sukkot. I'll just say something that has nothing to do with Sukkot, but since we are here in the last week of the year, and it's a special year this year because Rosh Hashanah is actually on Shabbat. So we have a whole week before Rosh Hashanah will start. So I'll just tell you that there's a Hasidic saying that the week before Rosh Hashanah can fix all the weeks of all the year. So this Sunday, if we make the most out of this Sunday and we take all what we can in terms of connection to Hashem and doing mitzvot and learning Torah, so this Sunday is going to fix all the Sundays that we had this year. And tomorrow it's going to fix all the Mondays we had this year. And so we have now an opportunity, a week, to fix and to tune all the days that we had this year. So good luck with that for all of us, and hopefully we will have a Shana Tova and a meaningful Rosh Hashanah, the beginning of the year. But now we're moving on to Sukkot. So, just as an introduction, I would say that Sukkot is very close to the high holidays, to Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, but in a way, it's not entirely connected. Sukkot belongs to a different cycle, and that is the cycle that we know as the festivals cycle. Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, they are marking the beginning of the year, and we're dealing with Rosh Hashanah is the day of judgment, and Yom Kippur is the day of atonement. It's around the ideas that the year is beginning and there's something that we must do about it, also personally and also in the level of the world. Sukkot belongs to a different cycle, to a cycle of the 3 festivals. Pesach, starting with Pesach, Shavuot, and Sukkot. Those are the 3 major festivals that are already written in the Torah. 3 of them have a connection to history. They point out 3 aspects of the getting out of Egypt, the time that we were formed to become a nation. But they have also a very agricultural aspect. So in terms of our nation, Pesach is the festival that we commemorate the getting out of Egypt. Sukkot, Shavuot, let's go by the order, even though it's a bit different. Shavuot commemorates the time that we received the Torah on Mount Sinai, and Sukkot commemorates the whole journey in the desert where we settled in huts or in some kind of dwellings that are not permanent dwellings, right? It took us 40 years to go through the desert and then reach the land of Israel where we settled down and had permanent dwellings. And so this is the historical aspect. We have the getting out of Egypt, the receiving of the Torah, and the whole journey in the desert, dwelling in dwellings that are not permanent. The agricultural aspect is also very present in the Torah. Pesach is the holiday of the katzir, of the cutting the wheat. Shavuot is the holiday of the bikurim, of gathering the first fruit and bringing them to Jerusalem. And Sukkot is the holiday of the asif, of the gathering of all the end of the ending part of gathering the fruits before winter starts. And so in that sense, Sukkot is not the beginning of the year, but rather the end of the year, the end of this cycle that starts on Pesach and basically finishes the three major holidays that are connected to what happens after winter, right? All winter, the people who work the land, which were the majority of the people of Israel in the times of the Bible, in times of the Torah, all winter they're sitting and praying for rain, right? Their livelihood is based on the land and what will grow out of it. And as we know from many different societies, including Nordic societies, we have celebrations that are connected to what happens after winter. We have also celebrations of winter, trying to light up the darkness of winter. But once spring comes, we know that it is a very special and very happy time for those who depend on the land for their livelihood. And therefore we have Pesach for the harvest. We have Shavuot for bringing the first fruit, and Sukkot for gathering all the fruit and preparing the land for winter. So this is the context of Sukkot. Now, in Judaism, in the Torah, and even more so in the Talmud and with our sages, these two aspects connect all the time. They connect in a very close way. The story of our people, which we will mark as the national aspect, the aspect of who we are and how we were formed, and the agricultural aspect. And Sukkot is no different in that sense. So in Sukkot, the word sukkah in Hebrew means a hut or a non-permanent dwelling. And the center of the holiday of Sukkot is that we leave our permanent dwellings for a week and we live in a sukkah, we live in a hut. And this is also, as I said, it also marks the dwellings that we lived in the desert, being taken care of by God throughout the 40 years that we were journeying in the desert. And also it marks the time that the people who work the land go out of the house into the huts that are in the field while they're gathering the fruit. So it's the same kind of hut and the same kind of unpermanent dwelling for two reasons that might seem different at first glance, but basically it's the same thing, right? We have a need now to get out of the house, either because we're journeying to Israel to our permanent dwelling as a nation, or because we need to gather the fruit that was growing all summer and to pick it and to bring it back home. And so we have to get out of our permanent house. This is the core of Sukkot. Now, there's another aspect of Sukkot, and now I'm just going in an overview. Soon we will dive in. Another aspect of Sukkot, which is very connected to it, is Sukkot being the holiday of the growing things. And so we have a mitzvah in the Torah, not only to live in a hut, to live in a sukkah, but also to shake 4 growing things, which are called in Judaism 4 minim, arba minim, 4 kinds of growing things. And once we got that order, which is, as I said, is written also in the Torah, alongside with going out to the Sukkah, we understand that that God formed Sukkot as a time of connecting to nature. And it's very fitting that it also comes from the aspect of living in the dwellings during the journey in the desert, and also being surrounded by nature, the nature that I have grown in my fields when the fruits are ready. And so Sukkot was a time of great, great happiness. And it is still all about surrounding ourselves with nature. So we have to actually surround ourselves with nature in the Sukkah. We have to hold 4 kinds of growing things and to shake them. And we will add to that the aspect of water, because when the temple was built, Sukkot was a time where the Kohanim would take water from the only source of water there is in Jerusalem. We won't get into it too deep because it's a big subject, but you should know that Jerusalem, it's hard to imagine in the Nordic countries, but Jerusalem doesn't have almost any water source. And basically in the concepts of old times, it's a very strange thing that Jerusalem has become a strong and a central city, because most central cities were around water sources. To get to a city that has no water source, or almost no water source, and to make it a central city is a peculiar thing, and it's a very interesting thing to think about while thinking that God chose Jerusalem and so on and so forth. We won't go into it so much, but the Kohanim, the priests, would go from the temple to the only source of water in Jerusalem, which is called the Shiloach pool, the pool of Shiloach. And by the way, if you come to Jerusalem nowadays, you can go to the pool of Shiloach and see it. It's a beautiful place, very close to the old city. And there are stories on stories about the Shiloach. We won't get into it now, but they will take water from the Shiloach, go back up to the temple, and spill the water on the altar. And that would also be a way to bring forward this idea of nature, of water, the source of life that depends on God and depends on the land. For people who work the land, of course, when we're facing a winter, what we really want is a lot of rain, so our crops will grow. And so Sukkot has become, in that way that I'm describing now as an overview, the holiday of nature, and the holiday really that marks the end of the agricultural year and the prayer for a good winter that will water the land and will help us grow the crops for next year. So this is a very, very meaningful time. And I will just add that even though we said that the relationship between Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur and Sukkot is not exactly the same kind of cycle. It's close by, but it's not exactly the same kind of cycle. Of course, that in the Jewish year, especially that when we're celebrating it for 3,000 years and more, of course, a connection is becoming stronger and stronger, right? And nowadays, nobody can say that they don't feel any connection between the time of judgment, the time of purity, I'm talking, of course, the time of judgment is Rosh Hashanah, the time of purity is Yom Kippur, and then 5 days later, we are going out of our house into the Sukkah, and we're filled with happiness and prayer for a good winter. It is all connected. It has become connected. And so what happens is that we pray for God that he will give us a good year. We ask him to forgive us for all our misdeeds. We're getting purified by Yom Kippur, by the Day of Atonement. And then this brings us to a happy occasion, a happy festival, and to a festival where now, after we are purified, we can depend on God also in the agricultural way, and also depend on God the same way that the people of Israel depended on God in the journey of the 40 years in the desert. So this was the overview. Now let's get inside. So the sages were trying to figure out, like almost anything, and this is I don't know if it's underlined in the classes of other rabbis, but I try usually to underline this in my classes here, that basically the whole concept of halakha is trying to figure out, what did God want? Because God says something in the Torah, and now we have to understand, what does that mean? And so each time that we get those long discussions and long rules about how things should be, it's basically our sages taking seriously what God wanted. And so when God says you shall build a sukkah, what is it? And what would be considered a sukkah? And so the definition of our sages is an interesting definition. First of all, everybody need to sit in the sukkah. Men are more required, are more obligated to sit in the sukkah than women, because it's a mitzvah that depends on time. Every mitzvah that depends on time, men are obligated to it and women are not. And there was, I think, a shiur already in the past about the idea behind that. You can look it up. And so what is a sukkah? A sukkah, according to what the sages decided, and I urge you to look it up and see the discussions, because they are fascinating discussions, is that it has to be, on one hand, a strong thing. It has to be a dwelling. It can't be something that is floating around, but it must be non-permanent. So what is this definition? It's like it's being in the twilight zone, right? And it took a lot of effort for the sages to get to decide how exactly to describe what is this twilight zone of a real dwelling that is not permanent. And so the sukkah has to have at least 3 sides, three walls, and a cover. But the cover can't be a permanent cover. It must be what we call a schach. A schach means a cover of some kind of branches. Doesn't matter which kind of branches. Most Jews in Israel used to use palm branches just because they're wide and they're covering. But it could be any kind of branches or any kind of a natural material that nothing unnatural is involved in it. And nowadays there are these kind of how would I say, sheets, not sheets exactly, but like a spread of straw that people that is connected with strings that are also made out of growing things. to cover the sukkah. An interesting definition of this cover is that it has to be thick enough so the shadow is stronger than the sun. In other words, that it's a cover. It covers from the sun. It defends you from the sun. But since we're in the twilight zone, we don't want to make it too permanent. So the definition is you must be able to see the stars. So just think of this way that our sages are dealing with this twilight zone. What does that mean? Permanent, but non-permanent, but real, that we need to cover with something that is growing, with something natural. It must bring us more shade than sunlight, but we must be able to see the stars through. If we look from under, we must see the stars. Regarding the walls, they must be walls. The definition also here. The definition is that the walls must be able to stand with a usual wind. In other words, if a usual wind blows and the walls are getting all mixed up, it's not real enough. But we don't need it to be stronger than if they stand in a normal wind. In other words, if there will be a very strong wind and they will fall, it's fine. We should build them up back, of course, but we did our job. Also, the walls must be strong, and if we have there are many I would say many details to that. If you are building a sukkah, and you should build a sukkah, if you can build your own sukkah, it's very good. If you can't, then of course go to the close synagogue that you have. But if you're building a sukkah, you should consult your rabbi how to do it exactly. Another definition of the sukkah has, as I said, we need to see the stars through it. So it has to be under the stars. So if you live in an apartment building and there's a flat over you, or a balcony over you, above you, I mean, then there's no use building a sukkah because it's under a balcony. And so if there's no option to build a sukkah on your balcony, and you don't feel comfortable building a sukkah on the street for some reason, or if you don't have a yard next to you, or a little garden or whatever, so of course it's better to use the synagogue's sukkah, or to talk with a few friends and find someone who does have a sukkah and make sure that you eat with them. Most people nowadays, at least as much as I know, in the Scandinavian countries, don't build their own sukkah, and they're depending on the synagogue sukkah. So I will say a few words about that. If you have your own sukkah, I'll say it like this: the simple rule is that we don't, at least the males, at least the men, are not allowed to eat anything outside of the sukkah. There's a discussion about drinking. Whoever has their personal sukkah, of course, it's the right thing to do. If you don't have your personal sukkah, you can't starve all day. So there should be an effort to eat in the sukkah, at least eat something once a day, a meal in the sukkah, like a piece of bread. Wash your hands, say a motzi, bless over the bread, eat something in the sukkah, and then say birkat hamazon. And in that way, get the merit of using the sukkah for dwelling in it. If you can't, then at least find a few times during the holiday to do it. And most synagogues should give that option. If your synagogue doesn't give your option, if you don't know what to do, where to go, contact your rabbi. On the first day of Sukkot, which there's a special blessing to sit in the sukkah, and we say that blessing every time we eat. We're not only saying Hamotzi lechem min haaretz, we're also saying Baruch Ata Hashem Elokeinu Melech Haolam Asher Kiddushanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu leishev basukkah, to sit in the sukkah. And this is a blessing that every person should say in every serious meal. That means with the bread that they eat in the sukkah. A special blessing for eating in the sukkah. I'll say again that Sukkot has many small details to it. So you should consult your rabbi. You should check out for yourself with the books that you have with you, the Steinsaltz books or other books, because there are many details to all of these rules. I'm just giving sort of an overview, so you will have the picture. This is about the Sukkot. Now, the 4 minim. Basically, every Jew should have 4 minim. What are those 4 minim? So the Torah says a general description. The sages discussed what exactly are those 4 minim, and they came up with the following. We need to have an etrog, which is I'm sorry, just a second. I'm trying to remember the names in English. So etrog is a citron tree. It's not a lemon, but it looks a little bit like a lemon. A lulav is the long closed branch of a palm tree. A hadas is leaves from a myrtle tree, and an arava is a willow tree, is a branch from a willow tree. We have to have 1 etrog, 1 lulav, 3 branches of hadas, of myrtle, and 2 branches of arava. The way to do it, also, you should check this out because there are many small details to it, but we have an order in the Torah to have them together, to tie them together. So, and also there we use only growing things. We don't use any material that is not a natural material. And so many people have some kind of a prepared sack made out, also made out of palm strings. But even if you don't have that, you should tie it together with some kind of a natural string. Natural, I mean from a growing thing. We tie the lulav, the arava, and the hadas together, and the etrog, the citron fruit, we hold on a different hand. And of course, we should keep it. It should be nice. It should be fresh. Many people put their 4 minim in water or in a wet cloth in order to keep it fresh, so it won't dry out, because 8 days is a long time. And every morning there's a mitzvah to shake those 4 minim, those 4 kinds of natural things. There are different minhagim of how to shake it, but the general idea is that we are shaking it 3 times to all the sides, front, right, back, left, up, and down. There are different minhagim as to what the order of the directions are. But there is a bracha to say. We say the bracha of the four minim, and then we shake them to all the sides, to all the sides. We won't get into the spiritual aspect of what is it to shake. I will just tell you that many people, especially people who just start performing mitzvot, feel that this ritual is one of the strangest rituals in Judaism. It is a strange feeling to stand and shake those four species to different directions. And you should look up the spiritual aspect of what it means. I will just say that regardless of what you read, being able to do something that seems strange or seem unnatural to you is a good way to start the year, to show some kind of devotion to God, that we're doing also things that we're not fully understanding and make us feel strange, because basically all of halakha is strange. The idea that we are obeying God is a strange idea, and maybe putting that out, doing a very strange thing, is a nice way to start. But of course, once you get into it and you read it, then also it makes sense, so it doesn't stay strange, at least in my experience. If you are praying, which you should, then there is the time to shake the lulav is while saying the Hallel. Every day of Sukkot, we're adding to the prayer of Shacharit the prayer of Hallel. Hallel, we are thanking God. There are different times along the year that we pray Hallel, on the first day of each month, and on different festivals. And on Sukkot, we pray Hallel also. And there are specific times and in Hallel that we shake the lulav. Another special custom, which I do every day of Sukkot, regardless of the shaking the four minim in the Hallel, is to have the first shake of the four minim in a sukkah every day. And so what I do, I go to the sukkah, I shake the lulav, and then I go into the synagogue and start the prayer and shake also during the Hallel. But to be surrounded with the sukkah and with the natural things in the sukkah, and also to be surrounded and also to shake the lulav, gives an extra experience of the connection to nature in Sukkot. Now I'll say a general rule that we see in Sukkot, in all its aspects, which is the rule of beauty, and we don't have it in other instances, in other festivals, or in other mitzvot so much. There are a few places in other places, but in Sukkot it's very, very much underlined. And this is that everything has to be beautiful, and we have to make an effort to make it beautiful. And so the sukkah, customarily, we decorate it to make it a beautiful place, a place that is comfortable to sit in. There are many people, if they have their personal sukkah, so they bring in a couch to sit in, books to read. Of course, when it's raining, it's a bit problematic. In Israel, it's easier because many times there won't be rain, but also in Israel, it rains. To make it a dwelling that is beautiful, and also in the sense of the four minim, the four species, it has to be beautiful. So we're looking to find a beautiful etrog, an etrog that looks nice, that looks beautiful, that doesn't look crooked. And people are putting a lot of effort into also paying a lot of money for first class minim, and also to choose their own minim, to choose their own species, and to see if the lulav is exactly straight as would make it beautiful, if the leaves of the hadas are fresh, are nice, are not dry, and so on and so forth. So this idea, you know, we're in a different time right now. I assume that many of us don't, even if we have our own personal minim, we don't have the opportunity to choose them or to look for different ones. We get the sets that we buy. But still, we should know that Sukkot, I think it comes with the spirit that we spoke about throughout this class. Sukkot has a lot to do with beauty, with nature. We have to make it beautiful. We have to get pleasure of it. Um, and that's something that is many in other times. It seems like an addition to the mitzvah. Here in Sukkot is the center of the mitzvah, to be as happy as possible and to make this holiday as happy as possible. Sukkot has 2 days, like all the rest of the holidays. This year, Sukkot starts on Shabbat. So this is Friday night. Sukkot starts. I'll just go through very few details of the laws of the differences between Shabbat and the festivals and the holidays. On Shabbat, we're not allowed to do any kind of work. On Yom Tov, we're not on Yom Tov, which is the holidays, the festivals. We're not allowed to do any kind of work, but we are allowed to cook. Anything that is connected to food, we're allowed to do. We're allowed to open cans. We're allowed to cook. We're allowed to do other things that are connected to food. Again, for the same reason that that we should have the joy and the pleasure in the holiday. We have to make sure that, knowing that we're allowed to cook, we have to remember that we're not allowed to light fire. So anybody who's interested in cooking has to have the fire or the stove uh, uh, lighted before the holiday. Also on Yom Tov, okay, I'll say it like that. Now that Sukkot is on Shabbat, it's more tricky because Shabbat is stronger in the sense that all the things that are forbidden on Shabbat, it's true, by the way, also for Rosh Hashanah that will be this year on Shabbat. All the things that are forbidden on Shabbat are forbidden also on a holiday that is on Shabbat this year. So we're not allowed to cook on Sukkot, which is on Shabbat. And we're not shaking the lulav on Shabbat. On the first Yom Tov, we're not shaking the lulav this year because lulav is muktzeh. We're not allowed to carry a lulav. And therefore, there will be no shaking of the lulav. Don't bring the lulav to the synagogue on the first holiday, because it's forbidden, and there will be no shaking of lulav. Bring the lulav on the second holiday, on Sunday. Okay. Now, regarding the prayers, we said there is Hallel. I hope all of you know what Hallel is. I'll just say in a few words, just to make sure. Hallel is a group of psalms that we say in special holidays. We say it on Pesach, on Shavuot, on Sukkot. We say it on the first day of each month. And basically, those are psalms that are connected to glorifying God and to thank God for the good things that He has done to us. Hallel is from the word is connected to glorifying. And so the prayer we have Hallel. Another very special prayer that we have every day of Sukkot is called the Hoshanot. Hoshana is a Hebrew word that connects two words, Hoshana, which is save us, please, or redeem us, please. And this is also a ceremony that was conducted in the temple, and we are doing it as a memory of what happened in the temple. In the temple, every day of Sukkot, the priests would go around the altar while also pouring the water that we spoke about before. They would go around the altar only with aravot, only with the willow branches, and recite prayers that are connected to asking God to give us a good year, still pulling from Rosh Hashanah and Yom Kippur, and with focus on water, and obviously connecting Sukkot to the idea of the winter starting. Every day they used to go around the altar and recite those prayers. And in that memory, we too are going around the bima, around the center of the synagogue with our four minim, and we recite the prayers and poems, very, very ancient poems that are connected to asking God for his to be redeemed. So that also you should know that happens in the synagogue. In the synagogue, we also read the Torah every day of Sukkot. And I'm just reminding us that there is a special prayer that we say also in the Amidah and also in Birkat Hamazon, which is called Ya'aleh V'Yavo. Ya'aleh V'Yavo, we say it every time we say Amidah or Birkat Hamazon, and it's a blessing that is connected to the happiness or the moments of the festivals, and also on Rosh Hashanah we say Ya'aleh V'Yavo, and the first day of the month, and in other occasions. So just remember, when you are eating bread in the sukkah, if you can, then remember also to say Ya'aleh V'Yavo within Birkat Hamazon, and when you're saying Amidah, don't forget to say Ya'aleh V'Yavo. Again, I'll say, because I feel conscious that we just had an overview here. Go into the details, please. Learn more, see the different nitty-gritty also of the sukkah and also the four minim. It's really interesting, and it will give you a better picture. Now we're just having an overview. The last day, or the seventh day of Sukkot is a special day. It's called Hoshana Rabbah. Hoshana Rabbah, as I as I told you, every day we're having Hoshanot. We're circling the center of the synagogue like they circled the altar, asking for Hoshana, for God to redeem us. On the seventh day, it's called Hoshana Rabbah. Rabbah is in Aramaic for big. So Hoshana Rabbah is the big Hoshana, the big ceremony of asking redemption. And on that day, we are circling the center 7 times, like they circled in the temple, the altar 7 times, not only once. And it's a very, very special day. All the prayers there are connected to water. And we're actually, the end of the prayer, the climax of the prayer is asking God in a very direct way that this year will be a winter of water, and that there will be a lot of rain. I'll just say that in Nordic countries, it might seem strange to ask for a lot of rain because we get rain all year long. I'm just going back to what I started with. Jerusalem and the land of Israel in general has very few water sources. And the Torah itself says that one of the special things about the land of Israel, the Torah says it as opposed to the land of Egypt, that the land of Egypt drinks water freely. They have the Nile flows all the time. The Nile waters their crops all the time, all year long. They don't need rain. And God says to us in the Torah that Israel is special in the sense that it needs rain. And therefore, the rain is really a sign of a blessing. It means that God wants us to approves of our deeds and have a good and really wants to give us a good year. And the opposite is also true. If you I hope that all of you say Shema twice a day, and maybe 3 times a day, also before you go to sleep. And Shema, it's very clear that God says, if you don't obey my commandments, I will not give you rain. So this is the rain is described in the Torah. The rain in the land of Israel is described as a very strong mechanism that brings up the connection between God and the people of Israel. We do good, we get rain. We don't do good, we don't get rain, and then we have a problem, and we have to ask God for rain and to repent in order to be able to live, to have just to live. I have 3 more minutes, so I'll just move on very fast. There is a custom on the night of Hoshana Rabbah, when Hoshana Rabbah starts. So this year it will be I'll just see. This year it will be on Thursday night, the 5th of October. There is a custom to stay up all night and learn Torah, very similar to what we are doing on Shavuot night, and I won't explain now why, but you should just know that this is something that happens, and you should look it up. The day after Hoshana Rabbah, or the night after Hoshana Rabbah, we say goodbye to the Sukkah, and there's a new holiday that starts. The holiday is Shmini Atzeret, the 8th day that stops Sukkot. And this is again a holiday that marks the beginning of the winter. And we again pray for rain. We start the praying for rain. Well, not the praying for rain, I'm sorry. We're starting mentioning the rain in the blessing of Amidah. On the second blessing, we're declaring that God is bringing down the rain. and we're doing it all winter. On the summer, we're not saying that. You should look it up and see. Mashiv haruach u'morid hageshem. This is something that we are saying. We start saying on Shmini Atzeret, and they're special prayers. It's a holiday. It's not like the days between the holiday of Sukkot. I see I skipped this idea, so I'll just clarify. Sukkot this year will start on the 29th of September in the night. So Shabbat, the 30th, is the first day of Sukkot. The 30th and the 1st, Shabbat and Sunday, this is a holiday. It's called in Hebrew Yom Tov. It's a holiday where we're not allowed to do any kind of work except, as I described, things that are connected to food. This year, Shabbat is not allowed. We're not allowed to do the food, but on Sunday we are. From Monday until Friday, Monday the 2nd of October, until Friday the 6th of October, including Hoshana Rabbah, this is the time that is called Chol HaMoed. Chol, on one hand, is it's a normal weekday, but it's a weekday that is within the holiday, within the Moed, within the holiday. And it's on one hand, we're allowed to do work, we're allowed to drive, we're allowed to have electricity, we're allowed to do all the jobs that we're usually doing. We're allowed to go to work also, but we're still saying Hallel in the morning. We still must eat in the sukkah if we can. We still need to be happy and to be celebrating Sukkot. And if you are working in a flexible environment, then there are many, at least in old days, you were not allowed to work. And it has changed in the modern times. The rabbis learned that if you're going to lose your job, or if you're going to lose a lot of money and so on and so forth, this is a part where you can be easier on yourself. But the general law of Chol HaMoed is that you can do all the jobs, all the work, all the actions that you're not allowed to do on Shabbat, but all of them must serve the pleasure of the Moed. So the difference would be between driving to a nice place to celebrate with your friends, to celebrate Sukkot in a sukkah, and driving to work. Ideally, you shouldn't drive to work. You shouldn't write anything that doesn't serve the pleasure of the Moed. You shouldn't, so on and so forth. Nowadays, in modern days, the rabbis sort of not exactly lifted this idea, but they described how it's easier if it's really connected to losing the job, chas v'shalom, or losing a lot of money, and so on and so forth. The time is up, so I'll just say in one sentence that the holiday we spoke about, Shmini Atzeret, is again on Shabbat. It starts on Friday night. Shmini Atzeret is Shabbat. But Sunday is also a holiday. It's a very, very special holiday, which is called Simchat Torah. Simchat Torah is the holiday where we're celebrating the finishing of the Torah. We're finishing the cycle of the Torah. We've read throughout the whole Torah, the 5 books of Moses. And on Simchat Torah, we are finishing the last parasha, the last part of the Torah, and we're starting again Bereshit. We're starting again the first parasha of the Torah. There's a huge celebration of happiness with the Torah. There's a mitzvah to have hakafot, to have dancing around the Torah, also Simchat Torah evening, which this year will be Motzei Shabbat, and also Simchat Torah morning. We say Hallel. It's a very, very, very festive time. There is a beautiful custom that is all over the Jewish world, that on Simchat Torah day, all Jews, all male Jews, get an aliyah to the Torah, and they're blessing the Torah, very small portions. We read the last parasha again and again and again and again until all the people in the community have gotten an aliyah, have blessed the Torah, and we dance with the Torah in joyous circles. And by that we're finishing this whole saga of the holidays, the high holidays. There are some spiritual sources, Hasidic sources, that say that the happiness of Simchat Torah is the complete forgiveness from Yom Kippur. So even if we weren't forgiven on Yom Kippur and on Sukkot and on Hoshana Rabbah, which is also a day of forgiveness, Simchat Torah, when we are able to dance with the Torah, doesn't matter what we know of the Torah. We're not tested on the knowledge of the content of the Torah. Just to hug the Torah and dance with it and be happy about finishing the Torah and starting again, this is the complete forgiveness and the complete atonement that starts very soon on Rosh Hashanah. So by that, we've concluded the high holiday period. Then we will start the challenging time of Cheshvan, of the winter, the dark winter, and we're now going to a recess also in the Sunday classes, and we'll resume after Simchat Torah. So I want to wish everybody a happy, sweet year, Shana Tova Metuka, and may our learning be uplifting throughout these high holidays. May we receive good judgment and pure atonement and pure happiness on Sukkot. And this Beit Midrash is prepared for giving all of us the light that we need throughout the cold winter, right after Simchat Torah. If anybody has any questions, I'm here to answer. I'm sorry I took 6 minutes of your time. And I'll just respond. Doreen asked, where can you buy a lulav? I see that she already got an answer. Of course, communities usually organize buying of for minim, and if you don't know about it, contact your rabbi. Any other questions?
Is it normal, like for the people in Giur process, to already have the lulavs with them in the synagogue? Like, I mean, I was asking about the talit, and I got an answer that talit is not yet the thing. But is it normal to have the lulav with you?
Yes, it's something that you should practice before you finish your Giur. So absolutely, you should have four minim, and you should practice shaking them. All right, so if no questions, Shana Tova, thank you very much.
Shana Tova.
Shana Tova.
Thank you very much.
Shana Tov.
Thank you. Shana Tova.
Shana Tova, Metuka.